I've been playing worship piano all wrong. Or maybe more importantly, I've been teaching all of you how to play worship piano all wrong. But it's taken me 10 years to figure out what I was missing and how to fix it. It all starts with a patch. Let me show you. I've got some reteaching to do. This is a patch. It's got sounds in it. These sound modules here each represent a specific sound. And we've been making patches since the beginning of Sunday Keys, of Sunday Sounds, and we've always called them layered patches because it's a patch with multiple sounds layered on top of or next to each other. And since the early days of us programming layered patches at Sunday Sounds, we've always programmed the synths to get brighter when the mod wheel is moved up. We've always wanted there to be a simple single control that could add energy while you're on stage performing. So in this particular patch, it sounds like this. And then I move the mod wheel up, and those synths get brighter. The lead sound, the pad sound are substantially brighter when the mod wheel is in the up position. And then that brings the intensity back down when the mod wheel is lowered. The intent behind this has always been to keep things simple, to give you an easy way to increase the dynamic intensity, to add energy. This can sound good. It often does. Lots of churches do this, and lots of patches in Sunday Keys do this. And this is how I default to programming patches, or at least how I have defaulted to programming patches over the last decade or so. But it's all wrong. The point here is to keep things simple when you're on stage. You need to be able to rise and fall dynamically with the band, or maybe to push the mix in intensity with a simple control like the mod wheel. And brightness is how we focused on doing this as we programmed patches inside of Sunday Keys. It sounds good. Oftentimes it can be useful. It can be musical, but it's all wrong. But to understand why it's wrong, or at least why it's sometimes wrong, well, we have to go back to the source. Worship music has changed a lot over the last decade. Remember, I said I've been doing it this way for a decade or so. Worship music today from the keyboard is dense. Lots and lots of parts. It's not uncommon to have 6, 7, 8 different synth parts layered on top of pianos and strings and brass, all sorts of different elements coming together at various levels of volume and intensity. Let's talk about live worship recordings. Once upon a time, maybe you could actually assume that most of what you heard on a live recording was actually recorded live during that night of worship or those nights of worship. But over time, it's become more and more common for some of those important parts or those bits of polish to be recorded before or after the live recording, and then mixed in to supplement and fill out the sound of that worship night. And honestly, it's not uncommon now for even studio albums to kind of sound live. I think as so many bands have prioritized those live worship albums, it's become sort of the aesthetic of a lot of worship music, where even a studio album from somebody like Cody Carnes, when the choir kicks in, it sounds more like a crowd than a choir sometimes. And you have these drums that sound like they're in a big live, a big church or a hall. And that vibe really carries over throughout and comes into the keyboard. But let me let you in on a little secret. Those keys parts that you're hearing on those live albums, those live recordings, they're not really live. Maybe the piano is the actual output, but most of the time, everything else is tracked in advance, or it's dubbed after, or maybe they will double all of the keys parts to really just thicken things up. So if you're trying to sound just like the live recording, what you're actually often trying to sound like is the live recording from 1, 2, maybe 3 keys players, plus whatever the producer or the keys player decided to add into the mix before or after that worship night. So this brings up something really interesting, because oftentimes you have sort of the core keys parts, which may or may not have been recorded live or may not be voiced to sound live, even though it might be a studio recording. They're using these core parts, and then they're also stacking and building layers of sounds around, on top of, underneath those core sounds to build dynamics. It kind of sounds like a layered patch, right? Wrong. Let me show you what I mean. Let's go back to this layered patch example. No matter where the mod wheel is, all the sounds are making noise all the time. So if the mod wheel is down and I play a chord, you can hear all the sounds. They just get brighter or darker with the mod wheel. So mod wheel down, dark, but still all the sounds. And move the mod wheel up. Even more full, brighter for sure, more intensity, yes, but still just all of the sounds, all of the time, all making noise. And the mod wheel is just emphasizing how bright those sounds are. Now, of course, we could go in and adjust the volumes individually one at a time on the fly, or we could save them to snapshots manually, but the default, sort of easiest way to build has just been to use the mod wheel as sort of the default way to get this done. And that's a problem, because most modern worship songs don't do this. They rely on actually bringing in and out different sounds, different textures throughout the arrangement of a song, whether that's a producer deciding to do that in the final mix stage, or if that's the keys player doing this before or during or even after the live recording. So did we just ignore this principle for 10 years? No, we just applied it somewhere else. We knew this was being done in the studio, we knew it was being done in live recordings, and that each song was getting this specific attention to detail about the mix of sounds, and that's where the dynamic intensity of them came from. We applied this principle in the most intuitive spot, to our song-specific patches. Now, if you're not familiar with our song patches, these are programmed precisely to match the arrangement of an original song, and they follow this principle to the letter. They bring sounds in or out, they shift the notes that are played, they add or subtract this intensity following the same principles that would be done in the studio when an album is being mixed or produced. And because this principle is followed to the letter, they are really powerful because of it. We often like to say that when you use a great song-specific patch, it almost feels like you have superpowers from the keyboard, because you're always in control of the most important sounds on the keyboard, and then there's all of this extra polish, this extra production value that just surrounds the primary parts that you play and makes your keyboard sound larger than life. So we've always had sort of two ways to approach your set list if you're using Sunday keys, with song patches that fill all of this space and mirror the production techniques of the songs you're playing, or layered patches, which are more of a palette or a starting point, where you get some sounds ready to mix, but then you have to make more decisions, either in preparation or on the fly, to pull off the parts with the right sounds. Both of these are powerful tools, and you can achieve great results using them for your live performances. But these two approaches really represent opposite ends of the spectrum. With song-specific patches, all the production programming is done for you, and you can just play the parts of the song. With layered patches, you have to make these producer choices while you're preparing or while you're actually performing on stage using the patch. We started to imagine what it could look like to create something in that middle space between a layered patch and a song-specific patch. Something bigger and that adds more production value than a layered patch, but that doesn't lock you into a specific song or arrangement. And we wanted to build this in such a way that it leveraged the full power of the Sunday Keys app, the ability to load up to 15 sounds, to design very intricate snapshots, to program MIDI effects that follow your transpose settings and seamlessly match the key and the tempo, the same level of experience and utilization of Sunday Keys' powerful features as a song patch, but with more flexibility. As we've been chewing on this problem, trying to fill this middle space, to bridge the gap, I'm really excited about what we've been coming up with. And I'm gonna share with you a first look right now. And make sure you watch through these examples, because I'm also gonna be telling you when you're gonna be able to get your hands on this exciting new way to play live keys.
All right, folks, if you like what you're hearing, listen up. Here's the info you need. This entirely new kind of patch is something we've never done before, and we're calling them Power Patches. They'll be released in expansion patch libraries for purchase from our website, and they're only available in the Sunday Keys app format. The first release is available right now. Power Patches Volume 1 includes the very first 10 Power Patches for you to explore. Think of it as containing essentially 10 song patches, but with the built-in flexibility and versatility of how each patch is programmed, it really opens up so much more than that. These are an incredible new tool for you. You don't quite need a song patch, but you need to fill tons of space in your band and don't want to take on complex programming from scratch. Volume 1 gives you so much to explore. This release is incredible, so click the link in the description and purchase Power Patches Volume 1 today. I know they're going to find a regular home in your worship set lists. And if you have an active Sunday Keys license, check this out. Head to the Sound Downloads Manager and update your Sunday Keys sound library. You'll find 3 free additional Power Patches in that latest product update. We wanted to give you a taste of what they can do.